Hi there.
It's very nice to meet you.
What's your name?
I'm Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Yes. So God says that you can own people as property. He says that you can beat them with a rod too. He commands genocide in Deuteronomy, in Numbers, and in Samuel. I mean, they have a goddamn baby barbecue in Numbers. Like, is all of this in line with Christian ethics?
No.
So then God doesn't fit within Christian ethics.
Well, the biblical library is a continuing story, and everything written in it has to be contextualized by the entire text. There's 65,000 hyperlinks in the biblical text. And you can take pieces of it out of context and criticize them, and that's what you're doing.
Hyperlinks? Is that
that's a mistake? I think it's an analytic mistake.
I think he read
putting
it
the cart before the horse.
Online. I really don't think so. I think that if we say that something is Christian ethics, then I think that all of the books essential to Christianity would fit with it, especially if it's like the main character. When we're talking about
how do you deal with
God,
the morality of war?
So
how do you think you should deal with the morality of war?
Sure. Because I feel like the morality, like I feel like Christian ethics, like this is kind of, I guess I just think it's like kind of an absurdity to say that God doesn't fit within Christian ethics, but sure, well, we can go on my ethics. That's totally fine.
I don't know what you mean by an absurdity. What game are you playing with?
Well, I just think that it's an absurdity to say that the Christian God doesn't fit within Christian ethics, that like the Christian God isn't like Christian ethical.
I said that the specific statements that you made don't take the context of the stories into account, and so that your analytical approach is faulty.
Sure.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Sure, then let's go through the example. Yeah, so, and I apologize. So let's go through the example. So in 1 Samuel 15:3, God says, go and slaughter the Amalekites, slaughter the men, the women, the children, the infants. What's the justification for that? Is that in line with Christian ethics?
That's a good question. I don't really know what to do with the terrible, blood-soaked, saturated history of the human past. I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, what you try to do in your own life, as far as I can tell, is to conduct yourself in a manner that makes such things much more unlikely.
I totally agree.
We're all saddled with the problem of the catastrophes that got us here, aren't we?
Yeah, but this one was commanded by God. That's the problem. Yeah, that's what differentiates it from anything else, is that this one, it's God saying, go and do this atrocity.
Do you think that there's ever such a thing as a righteous war?
I'm skeptical. I'm not sure. It would probably be situational.
Well, right. Fair enough.
But this one certainly wasn't a just war. The context for the Amalekite slaughter is that 400 years earlier, they fought one battle, which they lost. And God says, that's it. I'm going to wipe them off the face of the goddamn earth. And then 400 years later, he commands the Israelites to genocide their great grandchildren. That's not a just war at all. And also, a genocide is not a war.
Well, a genocide can be a war, but...
Absolutely not. Look, the genociding of the Amalekites, the men, the women, and the infants, that's not a war. The infants aren't combatants.
Look.
He tried to score like one tiny technical point, which is like, because he's not arguing for genocide. He's just arguing that it can be a war. But he seems pretty backed up against a wall here. I don't really know what he's going to do. He's kind of just admitting that this guy's pretty good too. I like this fellow.
No, he's done a good job. I mean, like he hasn't really let himself get distracted. You know, he's made a very clear argument. So, yeah, let's see what Dr. Peterson does with it.
I already said that it's very difficult to look at the blood-soaked past and to know exactly what to do about it. The answer I gave to the gentleman who is sitting here before you is that it's necessary to read a text like the Bible at all of its levels of analysis simultaneously. And there's a directional morality that emerges across time that has its roots in the Old Testament, for example, with its restrictions against murder specifically, that makes itself manifest in the Christian texts as the insistence on voluntary self-sacrifice as the foundational belief. That's a profoundly anti-violence ethos.
Do you have the belief in your theology?
Well, what do you think of that? Wait a sec. Now, redress what I just said.
So I'm about to address it, but I'm addressing it with a question. Do you think that God is by his very essence perfect?
You'll have to provide more.
Sure, just like maximally great and all like the great making qualities.
Sure.
Yeah, like flawless. Yeah. So,
okay,
so does a flawless thing change? Does a flawless thing reveal like more and better information over time? Or would a flawless thing say, here's what's good, here is the absolute good thing to do at all circumstances in time?
Well, we know some of that.
Wait,
Tell
so
the truth. That's one.
That's totally fine, but
No,
presumably
no. You don't get to skate over
because
that.
this is a
With
straw
that's
man.
totally
It's
fine.
a straw man of my position. It's a straw man of the argument. So
In what
the
way?
argument
No,
is
wait,
that God,
wait a sec. You
Well, I'm already
said
waiting a
find
sec.
one maxim that's transcendent across
I
situations.
didn't
and
say
When did he
those
say
words.
that?
I'm not sure what
Okay,
conversation you're
rephrase.
a part of.
Don't be a smartass.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, I mean it. If we're going to have a serious conversation, conduct yourself
All right, so
properly.
let's pause this.
Okay. Rephrase your question so that
Did I just miss something? Because I didn't hear anything like name one thing. I mean, did I just zone out for a second there? This kid actually did say something like that.
You said name one what?
Because Peterson is acting as if he was challenged to name like one like perfect moral principle or something. But I don't remember the kid he's talking to saying anything like that.
No,
I
don't
think he's
so.
just trying to throw the kid off balance so Jordan Peterson can feel like he's in control again, because he kind of like lost control because this kid came on and just like, focused like a laser on one thing and actually asked follow-up questions.
Yeah, and then what was the smartass comment? I missed that as well.
Well, yeah, because so again, I mean, I think what I heard the kids saying was, hold on, if God is perfect, then why would God command this stuff? And, don't like, if God is perfect and flawless, then, then God like shouldn't change his mind about morality, right? Should be consistent. I mean, that was clearly what he was saying. And this is just a super confusing response because Peterson is acting like he's been challenged to name like a perfect moral principle or something. And that just has nothing to do with anything. I mean, and he's also keeps going back to his thing about how, he doesn't know what to do with the iniquities of the human past, which is just like, I mean, this kid's actually done a pretty good job of like following up on this point. Right. But it's like, this is just has nothing to do with anything. It's like, look, I'm not asking you to like what you do spiritually with bad things that happened in the past. I'm asking you, like, if you're going to say that morality, that even the morality atheists follow really come from Christianity, then like it seems like you'd have to defend the morality of Christianity. And if so, what about the genocide of the Amalekites?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think, JP would do himself a lot of favors if he just said, look, I'm not a literalist and I don't believe when I'm talking about, Christian ideology, I'm talking about like some modern incarnation of it that doesn't take everything that was said in the Bible literally. I don't know. I just feel like he would do himself a lot of favors, but he can't. And that's clearly what he believes, because he's just kind of like, yeah, I don't really care about that, right? But then he can't really bring himself to say like, well, the Bible was probably written by humans or whatever, because I'm sure there's a lot of Christians that would probably have that general belief system, and if you brought up that to them, they'd probably be like, yeah, that's not good, but I like a lot of what Jesus said or something like that. Like, but he's kind of, I feel like he's caught between what he really believes, what he wants to project, and then at the end of the day, he almost can't say anything. And the other thing I was going to say is I feel like he can't stip to God being perfect because, again, he's playing that game of like, what is perfection? But that's not the point. You don't have to define or describe perfection to say, does perfection change, right? It's kind of more of a placeholder concept of like, does something perfect, could that change in his morality? Doesn't mean that you have to say like, I know what that perfection looks like. I feel like, but he's just kind of zagging into something else.
Yeah, right. I think that because there is a perfectly reasonable sort of liberal Christian thing you could say here, which I guess this is part of what you're saying,
right?
Is probably inching a little closer to what Peterson actually believes anyway, right? Which is like, well, I I don't believe that the Bible is literally word for word written by God. I think that there's, I think in some looser sense than that, it's divinely inspired, and it has human distortions in it, and that's where this like blood curdling genocidal stuff comes from, right? Like he could just say that, and I mean, again, I suspect that like at most that's what Peterson actually believes. Right.
Actually, I watched the entire hour and a half of Cody Johnson talking about this debate because I am a bigger masochist than Ben is, and he actually did find a clip of Jordan Peterson actually talking about his real beliefs, and he believes in Christian morality, but he thinks that Christianity is for stupid people.
When did he say that?
You got to watch the Cody video. I'm sorry.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. I'm just curious because I could
it's
see
deep in the Cody video,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was that might really be what he believes, but he has
he showed a couple of clips where he's like talking with what's that guy's name? Sam Harris.
Yeah.
And Sam Harris is actually pulling some of this stuff out. And it was another one was a conversation with some guy I didn't recognize. But it was like 3 different interviews he was kind of focusing on, which kind of give you this concept of that Jordan Peterson is not a real Christian, is fascinated by Christian ideas, believes in Christian morality, but also thinks that Christianity is for stupid people. But that's okay because he's smart. He doesn't need to be a Christian.
Yeah, again, I'd be very curious where he's getting that from, but like, I do think, I think part of that's definitely right. Like, I think that, I think the thing that Cody, like, whatever Cody is picking up and putting together to get that conclusion, right? I mean, I'd have to look at the clips. And I don't know whether the Christianity is for stupid people is an entirely fair description of Peterson's belief. Like I said, I just have to look at the clips. Like certainly based on anything I've seen before, right? I wouldn't have said that Peterson thinks that, but I think the rest of that is definitely right. I mean, I think it's 100% correct that Peterson is fascinated by Christianity, that he has some kind of attachment to it, but like, are his beliefs really Christian in any like, in any particularly meaningful sense? I mean, this is what I was saying earlier about how I think like that sort of liberal Christian story about, the Bible being loosely divinely inspired, whatever. Honestly, I suspect that at most that's what Peterson believes. And quite possibly he believes a lot less than that, right? I mean, like, I think that, I think quite possibly, like he believes in God the way he believes in dragons.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's such a poignant metaphor that means it's true.
Yeah.
And there's no difference between a metaphor and reality. Maybe we could get to the end of this guy at the very least, or
yeah, for sure.
Oh, okay. He's almost done.
Because I must have missed it. I tried to answer it.
So in my mind, I guess by my lights, a perfect being doesn't change. A perfect being, if they're maximally good, maximally moral.
Does our understanding of the perfect being change?
Our understanding might, but
Okay,
presumably what the perfect being is revealing.
Well, I agree. How do we distinguish between that, though, at the human level?
How do we distinguish between whether...
Between our transforming understanding of perfection and perfection itself.
Between our...
We can only see through our own lenses.
Presumably a perfect being would be revealing all of these aspects all the time, especially if God's outside of time. I don't know how a God who's outside of time is revealing different things at different times. That just seems like incoherent to me.
Imagine something that's perfect.
Sure.
And complete.
Sure.
Okay, and it's trying to communicate with creatures who are anything but that.
Sure.
Well, they're going to get it wrong.
Sure.
Okay, now wait a sec. Do you blame that on the interpreters or the phenomena itself?
So
like, for example, are you perfect in attending to your conscience?
Hold on. At the point in time when God is literally the one who created us, he could have created us in a way where we would always be receptive to these principles, where we don't have to go across like a learning curve where, maybe we'll understand like
free will.
thousands of years into the future, maybe we'll do it. Oh, also, if you believe in an all-knowing God, then free will is impossible because
wait a sec. Let's not go to that
because
yet.
you threw free will into the mix.
Well, that was the answer to your question.
Yeah, and
you
I'm
said,
saying
why
that's
wouldn't God?
incoherent.
Well,
It's
1,000
contradictory.
years of deep thinking philosophers would disagree with you. But
Yeah, and 1,000 years of, or at least like the last 50 years of philosophers would disagree with you. These analytic philosophers, people like Graham Oppie make arguments about the incompatibility of omniscience and free will, that if God created this world, if he chose this world instead of that world, then he makes it causally inevitable every single action that you were going to make. If he made a world where we were just electrons in love, then none of this would have happened. But by making us in this world, knowing exactly what's going to happen in the future, it makes all of those events inevitable.
You like that
which
line,
means that
Ben?
they're all causally determined, which means that we have no free will if you believe in an all-good God or an all-knowing God that made everything.
Well, have it your way.
Okay, cool. So then the free will of the Odyssey fails.
Well, it fails for you. That doesn't mean you've disproved it. I mean,
Do you want to
tried
respond
to
to
make
the argument?
Yes, you tried to make a case for a causally deterministic universe. I don't think there's any evidence for that at all.
Do you think that God could have created a different universe than the one that he created?
I have no idea.
Okay, so then there's going to be a double bind, right? So either he couldn't have done it, in which case he lacks a power, or he could have done it, in which case we don't have free will, because he chose this world instead of that world, making the events of this world instead of that world inevitable with his infallible knowledge.
I don't understand where you're headed.
It just means that the free will defense fails. Like all this, like under
like
your
I said,
view,
if
under
you want
your
to have
view,
it
free
fail,
will.
no problem. I don't know why it's relevant to the issue.
Do you acknowledge that under your view, free will doesn't exist?
No.
Oh, then do you want to respond to the argument?
You'll have to phrase it more clearly
okay.
so that someone like me can understand it.
Yeah, gotcha. So God already knows in advance everything that's going to happen, which means that by making this world instead of that world, everything is inevitable, which means that God's act of causing this world instead of that
Inevitable
world
doesn't mean determined.
It's causally inevitable if God chooses this world instead of that world.
Doesn't make it determined.
Causally inevitable means determined.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely, yes, it does.
Well, have it your way.
Okay.
That's not the case.
You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
All right.
I like the Burger King defense.
And Ben likes electrons in love.
Well, I was also laughing.
Or you were coughing. Yeah.
No, I mean, I was laughing, but part of that's because I know where he was getting that. And this is and it's kind of funny that's like that bubbled out here because that's originally from a paper that was written by a friend of mine, Neil Sinababu, I believe, right? So anyway, but yeah, so I think that kid was doing real good until the end. I think a lot of different issues kind of got mixed up there. In that thing at the end, the fact that he's like bringing up the electrons in love, right? I think a sign that he was kind of getting to a point where it's like he had a bunch of stuff he wanted to say and he sort of couldn't choose. At the very end, I'm actually going to look that up right now because I really want to see if I'm right about where that comes from.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it totally is, right? There's it's a 2016 paper by Neil Sinababu called "Divine Fine-Tuning versus Electrons in Love." So the point that the point of the electrons in love thing is what Neil is pointing out in that paper is that there's this conflict between two widely believed things that are put forward by theistic philosophers. One of which is that the universe that we're living in was chosen, like, so cosmic fine tuning, like,
right.
It's like so unlikely that we would have gotten it otherwise, like that we would have gotten this particular universe with these particular, physical laws, whatever. And this is the only one that would have allowed for life and minds and all that to develop. And so that's, that's proof that, for the existence of a divine fine tuner. And then the other one is dualism, the idea that, like, ultimately we're like non-physical souls that just happen to be attached to bodies. And so Neil's point in the paper was, well, hold on. If dualism is true, this should really take the wind out of the sails of the cosmic fine-tuning thing, because because God could have just hooked up souls to like anything, right? Like you could have you could have a universe with sentient black holes or electrons that can feel love, or all of that stuff, right? So that's whatever. That's
Okay.
I'm probably not doing it justice, but
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
I
that's
think
interesting.
what I'm getting from it, I'm just going to Tim Pool level it so to make sure I've got it right. But essentially, divine fine tuning is like Doctor Strange in Avengers Endgame. Whenever he says, "I looked at millions of realities, and only one we can defeat Thanos."
no, exactly, right. So
Okay, okay.
so God looked at all the millions
So
of realities.
you're welcome, Tim Pool. You understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. As I assume he is.
Yes,
Tend to
yes.
think-
As he is a
tend to think,
subscriber
right?
and watching now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, that's just kind of funny. I don't know. I mean,
You
So-
should ask Neil if he's seen this yet.
yeah. I actually should. Yeah. This is. I mean, I haven't talked to him in years, but I mean, I've stayed on that guy's couch. So anyway, but it is. So that was just funny to me that bubbled up. I mean, but I suppose it's possible he was getting that phrase from somewhere else, but I think that's original to him. But anyway,
Your description sounds like his argument that he just gave. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the argument that the kid was given was sort of specifically this thing about omniscience and free will. And I don't know how interesting this is for anybody, but I mean, I'm actually not totally sure that I buy that argument, that if God is all knowing, that means you don't really have free will. I think, yeah, I think maybe you could have free will even if God is all knowing. I guess I'm on Jordan Peterson's side of that. If anybody cares, I'd be happy to unpack that. But
Are there any betting odds on whether we have free will? Can we open a predicted market? Given if for the parlay to hit, you need all-knowing God, but still have free will. But I agree with you. I think that Peterson, like, trying to do free will, and like the minute you have a Jordan Peterson, especially when it's like a pretty debated topic back and forth between intelligent
exactly.
people. I agree. I was kind of like agreeing more with Peterson, I think, actually, in that exchange where I didn't feel like I was like, well, gotcha, I don't like.
No, for sure. And so there are two things. One, again, I mean, like on that particular thing about free will, I think I'm more on Jordan Peterson's side. I think that I mean, I think I get the argument the kid was making, and it's kind of interesting, but at least as he presented it, I'm not convinced yet.
I think it's because there's only two options, and are there really two options? Because we came up with a third one pretty easily of omniscience and free will. So like,
so it just seems like if there's. Yeah, I'm not like I tend to think that just because that God knowing exactly what's going to happen in the future wouldn't mean that you're not like that. That says nothing about God causing certain things to happen in the future. I mean, I'd have to think about it. I mean, I get how. I mean, it's a clever point, right? That the kid is making. I guess that's from Graham Oppie. About God like choosing between different possible universes. They can see the future of all of them. I'm not sure that means that it would have to be the case that God is causing all the stuff to happen in the future. I'm not sure that follows. And again, my position on that at least has always been that wouldn't, that wouldn't in itself, mean that we don't have free will.
We better not find a video of you contradicting yourself from 10 years ago.
I
No,
know on the show Ben has done stuff on free will, so like
No, we could pour over it. No,
Or through the archives to make sure I'm never.
Yeah.
I think I probably have been consistent on that. I think I've had like that's not like a lifelong position. I mean, there have been times when I didn't agree with that. Like I had to be kind of brought around and argued into it. But I think all the conversations. I don't think any of the conversations I ever had about this before I became convinced of what I just said were recorded by anyone.
Is that Is that the compatibilist view, by the way? That you have?
Yeah, well, I am a compatibilist, but I think maybe you don't even need to be a compatibilist to think this, and just because like in broad, like so compatibilism is the view that free will is compatible with causal determinism. So that causal determinism, remember, is just the view that given everything that's happened so far, then it's inevitable what's going to happen in the future, right? That, or like I guess the fancy way to say this is for any time slice of the universe, right? Everything that's going on at any given moment, you can extrapolate in principle, right? Future time slices of the universe. And so compatibilism says that even if that's true, we could still have free will, because basically, if by free will you mean that we're free from like causal determination, then clearly not, right? Like then clearly that's not compatible with free will. But I think arguably, given what we actually mean, like given the kind of free will that seems to be relevant to thinking about meaning and moral responsibility and all of that, I'm not. Yeah, I am a compatibilist about that. I think that even if it's the case that, given the sort of total physical description of the universe, right, what decision you make is inevitable, I don't think that necessarily means that you're not in control of your decisions in the way that would matter for whether you're morally responsible for those decisions. And that's obviously a big argument. And I certainly wouldn't try to press that with anybody if I had 90 seconds to talk to them, before it was over. But I think that like this, maybe you don't even need to be a compatibilist for, because here it's not even a question about causal determination. It's not even a question about like, okay, is what happens in the future caused by stuff in the present? Here it's just a question of like, okay, would an all-knowing being know what's going to happen? And you could know what's going to happen even if there's no like cause and effect connection, right? I mean, if you could just like look into the future, like if we like, okay, like assume that determinism isn't true, that like we have like whatever kind of free will, wouldn't be compatible with determinism. So it really is just radically, totally open. Given the whole chain of causation so far, it's just radically, totally open, like what you'll decide to do in the future. Well, nevertheless, if we could peer into the future, we could see what you would decide to do, right? So that seems, so I think just saying that, God would know what's going to happen in the future, it doesn't really follow that, even if you don't believe in compatibilism, right? Even if you don't believe that free will would be compatible with what happens in the future being determined, it seems like this is a lower bar than that. I mean, like the same way we could say, the fact that I know what you decided to do in the past doesn't mean that you weren't making a free decision. If I had mental powers, whatever, and I could tell what you're going to do in the future, right? That wouldn't mean that either. That wouldn't mean that it wasn't up to you what you did. It's just.
But to be fair, his point is that you have that knowledge and you created me exactly as I am now. So
yeah, right. Which is
so it's your fault.
Yeah, right. No, that is that's I guess the Graham Oppie thing. So which is interesting. I mean, I think that's I think that's like, again, at least based on the way he presented it just now, I don't know that I'm convinced yet, but like I can see the point, right? I could understand like how that would nudge somebody in the direction of thinking that, you really wouldn't have, that you really wouldn't have free will. So it's, but I think whether it actually does mean that, I think it'd be a much longer discussion, but
I think we also
I'd be coming in skeptical.
Yeah. I think we also just described the plot of the movie Darrenofsky's Pie.
I think so. I watched that in high school. So
I actually got to see that in the theater the first time, and the second time I was really high on pot.
Yeah,
I'm somewhere in between you guys. I watched it at the East Lansing Film Festival. So I think that was maybe even before I was in theater. I don't know.
Probably. If it usually it does the film festival circuit and then it gets into theaters.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. So I haven't. So I guess I watched it before. Okay. So before theaters, in theaters, after.
You're the three stages of Pie right here.
You're looking at three guys that have watched Pie, so it's a pretty knowledgeable
that's the
crowd.
important thing of all this. I also remember, like, God, what was it? What year did Pie come out?
Said 98, I think.
Okay.
Is it that early?
So that sounds about
like
right.
90. Yeah, because it was on DVD by 2000, because that's when I was really high on pot watching it.
Because I watched
98.
Okay, yeah.
Because we did a double feature of Fight Club and Pie, and
oh wow, that'd be interesting. I remember a couple of years after that, I saw Requiem in the Dream in the theater, and I really came into it knowing absolutely nothing about it, right? Like I had
such a harsh watch too.
I refuse to watch that movie. From what I,
it's a phenomenal movie. It's just
no, I know. I don't refuse, but yeah,
you made the right decision. I mean, I was walking home from work. I think that might have been Panera, or it might have been. I was working. This was like when I was living in Pittsburgh. I think I was working at like a kosher grocery store in Squirrel Hill for a while. But anyway, one of those two places. I was walking home from work, and I passed by the movie theater, and I saw the poster, and I thought the poster looked cool, and it said by the director of Pie. I was like, oh, I love Pie. And so I just went in and watched the movie, and I came out. I was like, Jesus Christ, I need to shower.
I said refuse, but there's actually a broader category of movies where it's not an active refusal. It's on any given night. It's like, do I want to watch Requiem for a Dream right now? Or just anything else?
You're continually renewing your active refusal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're kind of caught.
Like it actually is a good movie. Like
I'm
legit,
sure it's not but most of the things I'm avoiding, I know they're good. I just don't I don't want to watch Come and See. Just the way that little boy looks on the poster or whatever. Like, I don't want to see what made any little boy make that expression. There's a couple other things where I'm like, I know I should watch it, but it's gonna be very torturous.
Well, I'm not telling you should watch it. I'm just saying it's really good.
You're looking at a guy who shamefully skunked out of his Holocaust in film class sophomore year of college, where every evening after classes I had that. Do I want to watch a Holocaust film right now? And I made the choice no, and we're all living with the consequences.
Fair enough. So I mean, I guess going back to this, I would just say, like, all right, so that's all an aside. It's an aside within an aside, but I have going back to the first aside. I'm my initial instinct is to side with, again, he's making an interesting argument. I'd have to think about it, but my initial instinct would be to side with Peterson and the free will thing. But maybe the more significant point, right, is, or like the more relevant, because the whole free will thing really has nothing to do. I understand it came up because Peterson mentioned free will, and this guy had a thing on it, right? I understand how it goes, right? Like you're debating somebody, something comes up. Oh, you have a thing on that, right? So you're like, oh, here's a chance to slide it in, but I think it was a bad instinct because like he was doing so good up until then, and instead of just continuing to press him on the original point, like he got into making this like very esoteric argument about this tangentially related thing that it's like ultimately, whoever's right about that. I mean, like, it's like you could just give him, yes, free will could exist if, there's a God, and like that wouldn't make his original point not right. Right. I mean, so it's like, well, why not just stick with that and see if you can either get him to, as somebody said in the comments, Kevin, or anyway, somebody said Skellum said right, you could go full Lane Craig and say it's good if God commands it, right? And it's like, that would be interesting, right? Like, see if you can press him into that, or conversely, you could press him into sort of doing it like, well, I don't really think that all of Scripture is a reflection of God or whatever, which I guess he was kind of.
He kind of said it, yeah, but like he slipped it in there, so it would have maybe been good to follow up
like
on
really
that,
be like, okay, so to be clear, you're saying that not all of the Bible like actually reflects the will of God.
Yeah, exactly. By the way,
he did seem to be heavily implying. Right?
Oh yeah, he said that it's the fault of the interpreter, the person who's interpreting the perfect being. So then you'd say, okay, so do you believe that God actually commanded what I just said? Right. That would maybe be good, more fruitful.
Exactly.
But I think the kid kind of charmed him though. Charmed me too. But anyway, should we just real quick see what this is
before we wrap up?
Let's see what Peterson said here. I'm gonna refresh this.
Obviously, you don't want your view on religion summarized by "it's good for stupid people."
Well, I do want it summarized to some degree that way, because one of the things we do.
Yeah, I'm giving you the opportunity again to put this foot in your mouth.
But I would.
Obviously, you don't want your view on religion summarized by
on the
"it's good for stupid people."
There's more. I assume.
Yeah, no, Cody Shoddy actually has a more serious clip than just that, but does have that in there,
Okay, so this is all right. So this is already nudging me to think, because I have to say, when you first said that, I was like, you know what? I'll bet that's not a fair description of whatever Peterson said. But then it's like, okay, well, even based on that little 20 seconds, it's like, there's clearly something here, right? So yeah, I'd be super curious to hear the nuance thing when he said, well, I wouldn't mind in some ways if it was summarized as that. It's like, all right, well, you've got my attention. You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive post-games on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.